Welcome today. I've put a little visual on here about how lovely it is in the workplace, how pleasant it is in the workplace, how great we feel in the workplace, and the ideal smiling faces and great communication. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. You may have gathered from my background and what I'm doing is that I'm actually an actor by trade. So back many years ago, I was on the stage, on theatre, and that's how I got my education. I left home at 16 and I worked and worked and worked and worked as an actor and then had my children. So I have 2 children. So I'm a trainer and a mother as well at the same time. And in my training, why I do this training is we get told a lot about the things that we have to do when we go into work. So the typing, the procedures, doing things on time, but we don't always have a lot of guidance on the way that we behave in the workplace. And when we go into the workplace in the UK, it is very much thought that we should behave in a certain way in the workplace. There are expectations. And that can be quite confusing because it's really, really personal. It's a very personal thing. And also in the workplace in the UK, we can be marked on that and we can be judged on the way that we behave. And sometimes we just do it. We just behave. So the way that I train is I think about the processes that we have to do, the things that we do every day, and then the people that are alongside that and the way that we behave. And today, I'd just like to go through some of my experiences, some of the basics with you, and then open that up to the questions at the end. So thank you for coming along and thank you for joining for today's session. Today's session will be about expecting what is expected from you in the workplace. The first part, as I said, is to really understand what the environment is like in the workplace. When we put on our suit and we walk into the workplace, there's a very different feeling than just walking into a pub with your friends or a group of friends and sitting down and relaxing. So what are those expectations? Well, these words are really important. Professional and personal. 2 things that are brought together in the workplace because we're human. We're expected to behave professionally and personally. I'm just going to note now, I've got a Christmas present here on my hand, which is the Apple Watch, and I can't turn it off. So it's going to make little noises as we go through. So please just take that as read if it answers back. So let's have a look at what personal is, the word personal. I like to look at the words so that we understand what they mean. In the workplace, personal, it's concerning one's private life, relationships, emotions, rather than one's career or public life. So our way of being professional. The expectation is to be competent, reliable, respectful, achieving high standards in the workplace. Professional behavior is also characterized. So characterized, and that's the way that people feel about how you should be a professional. If you think you go to a doctor, you expect them to be considerate, formal, and focused. So it's very, very serious being professional. However, we have the expectation, we walk into our workplace, and then we have to talk to people. We have to interact with people. We have to share the way that we are with people. For being professional, excellent communication, respectful of others, well-groomed, strong work ethic, dependable team player, honest and flexible. So these are really professional expectations, and we can get very, very good at delivering our suit, thinking about being on time, organizing our work, but we come in and then we face excellent communication with people we've never met before, people that come from different backgrounds, people that have spent their whole working life in the UK understanding what it means to be professional and what it means to work in the UK. We are offered standards of behavior. So what I wanted to do here is, because I have spent a lot of time in business writing standards of behavior. So looking at what is personal, our emotions and our behavior with the expectations of being professional. I thought I'd share with you today a slide of standards of behavior, 3 standards of behavior that I wrote for a training program for a hotel group across the UK. So my training is with hotels, with banks, with building societies, with very professional outfits. And this is the language that you might see in the workplace presented to you when you come in, and often at your new starters as well. So on that first day that you come into work or you start work, not only all the people, all the professional attitude, and then you are given a way to behave. So let's just take some of this language, work our way through it. So the welcome behaviours here, this was designed for the Mercure group. Actually, I was working with the Mercure group when I did this. And this is called the Accor group. So they are a worldwide hotel group. And this was about 8-9 years ago. So we'll be okay to use it now. But it's an example of still what is in the workplace. The first one, a standard of behaviour. So the way that you are supposed to behave in the workplace to be professional. Welcoming, being attentive, acknowledge immediately, be proactive and prepared, and pay attention to detail. Smile. Okay, so we go back to professional and personal. A smile is is actually quite personal, and we can tell a lot from a smile. We can tell a lot from the way that the other person is thinking, and it's very hard if you're not feeling like smiling to actually smile. So the expectation for you to come in and smile on top of everything else that is in the workplace, to use positive language. So the language that we use in the workplace is very, very important. To be warm and friendly, to look good and to feel great. To greet, the third one, so to actually say hi to everybody in the workplace and communicate, to know your product, to find a solution, and then on top of everything is to work as one team, to work with everybody together. It's a lot to take on. And if you look at what we've written here, there's the professional and the personal all linked together. And I'd like to say that actually share an experience that I've had with lately, which has made me really think about this as well. So I went back into a job recently. I chose to be to learn a new area in TV. So I went into TV and I worked very much on a very basic level. I didn't know what to expect. And I met a group of people who I didn't know before. And I've been training this for 10 years. And I expected to be warm and welcoming and attentive and professional. And yet when I got into that work environment in the UK, something happened. I felt different. The people were different. I didn't always connect. And I found it very hard to form a one team. So when I was writing this earlier today, I really wanted to share with you some of the basic tools that we can have to deliver what is expected in the workplace, but also to understand that we're human and that we have reactions, and to value those reactions and to be able to overcome them and still be professional and add them into our workplace. So the very first welcome behavior on there said to be attentive and to acknowledge. The word acknowledge comes up time and time again in all of the customer service programs that I do. And I'm just about to start a big UK-wide customer service program. And at the heart of it, the clients at the top, what they want is somebody to acknowledge them. So what does the word acknowledge actually mean? Quite simply, it means to express recognition with a greeting or a glance. So if you can imagine yourself, you walk into your office space, and to make eye contact with somebody that is in your space and to say hello to them. That is as simple as the workplace needs, but it's very difficult to do because it's very personal. And when you make eye contact with somebody, you tend to get a feeling. And that feeling kind of rises up in you, and you think, well, what actually is a feeling? A feeling is a trigger. And if you go to inside you and you look at somebody, it's a trigger. And every time we speak to somebody or we make eye contact with somebody else, we trigger them. It's a process in the workplace of interpersonal communication. So we can trigger them in a positive way, or we can trigger them in a negative way. And if we go back to the slides that we had before, positive language, a positive attitude, taking initiative and choices, it all comes back to the choice that we make and how we then speak to the other person and make that connection in a positive way. So feelings are a trigger, and when we walk into the workplace, we're coming into contact with many different emotions, the emotions that we have every day, and they're from outside work, from inside work, from the other people in work. And it's, although we are told to be professional, and the word professional, and to leave our emotions at the door, that means that we would be robots. We have emotions. We feel comfortable, satisfied, enthusiastic, frustrated, quite often stressed, anxious, and the different people that are involved, annoyed. It can become quite fractious and annoying when other people are involved, especially if we're not understood. So how do we behave in different situations? There's an interpersonal way of communicating that may help, especially if you're going into workplace with many different cultures and many different ways of being. It's called a frame of reference. So if you can imagine a window, and a window in front of you that you're looking out of, that is your personal frame of reference. The frame of reference everyone has, and it's a way in which different individuals perceive the events and conduct themselves. So what I walked into, the situation recently with my office, they were very different. They've been working in TV for many, many years, and I'm a theatre girl. I'm vibrant, I laugh a lot, I tell jokes, I make a lot of noise. You might see now that I make a lot of hand movements and I make a lot of noise. And that's me. And I had to sit still. And I had to be responsive to what was happening in the room. And it started the feelings in me. I started to feel, well, why am I doing something that is unnatural to me? Why am I behaving? And yet I was being very professional and delivering my job, and all of my work was pretty good. It was up to scratch. But something was wrong in the room. And then I realized that my frame of reference that I was looking out of had been from a completely different background from the other people that were in the room. So it's the way that we look out, and it's never really the expectation of, say, a manager or somebody above you to look out of their frame of reference when they're busy and they have all of the targets that they have to meet. And yet it can come across as a real misunderstanding and mismatch. So it's a great way. I started to think, well, hang on a second, who are the people I'm working with? And what are their frame of references? So each individual would have their own window that they're looking out of. And it involves the environment that they come from, their language, And this becomes a really important part of communication in the workplace because it's personal to you. You can spend thinking about your frame of reference and what you bring to the job, but you can also understand the differences that other people have that you work with and their teams as well. So you can actually think about your own personal frame of reference, and each job that you go into, you can prepare by understanding what you bring to the role personally. So you'd be thinking about your language, and I just say language, but I know that many of you have many languages as well, which is an incredible skill. I don't. I only have one language and a little bit of French, like most people of my age going through the schooling that we had here. Didn't involve language, and it was involved in just English. So already you can see where some of the differences come in. Professional experience, I've come from the theatre. I'm self-taught. I have a degree, but I went back to a degree when I was 26. I've worked in theatre and 20 years really working in training as well. So this you might find it, I'm finding it very difficult not to talk to you right now. So again, my frame of reference here, I'm not a TED talker. So if you came and saw a presenter, they'd be very different from me because my frame of reference is different from them. So you're starting to see where these differences come in. Your culture, of course, the different cultures that you come from around the world that you bring into your frame of reference, your education. Very highly educated. I've been working for many years with many different people. Particularly, I can give you an example of about 15 years ago when I worked training chefs in the Barclays building in Canary Wharf. And kitchen porters, African kitchen porters, where I was training in my training room, came with briefcases, open briefcases, doctors that had come in and were working as kitchen porters and what we did is we shared that information in the room, and the chefs could understand the frame of reference from the African doctors who were working in the UK, and it brought the team together. We shared that information and we found something called common ground, and this is where my training started. And what I really enjoy is bringing people together to find that common ground and communication. And it really starts to build teams and relationships as well, which again, we go back to professional and personal, the two coming together, understanding. So your education, your age, your family, your whole experience. And this is a really important one for the UK workplace. Status. Your job title, what it is that you do, whether you're a manager, whether you're not. And the status that you have. If you're coming in as a beginner, you may understand that somebody that's been working there a long time, they may be in the same job role as you, but they have more status because they have been working there a long time. So again, we're looking at everybody's frame of reference. We'll be able to share, obviously, this with you. It's really good to have some time to go over this and actually write this down and find out what your frame of reference is. And at the end, it would be really nice to share some of these and see where the differences and the similarities are. The reason for doing this is because we want to find outside your frame of reference, in front of you, right in front of you, is the point where we all meet. And to find things that we have in common, because it may be that you have a school, a language, an experience, an elderly parent, somebody you're caring for, that the communication can start with. So it doesn't always have to be about work. In fact, some of the best communicators know how to share information and get information from other people. And this brings a very positive, effective communication in the workplace. So common ground is the space that all human beings no matter where you're from, stand on in communication. And it's a choice. Some people don't want to stand on that common ground. But for you going into the workplace, it's really good to understand that some people will be bringing similarities and differences into that common ground, but it's not always personal and it's not always true. So I wanted to bring a word in as well, which is really important when we're in business, and something that you can use and that you can clarify and that you can actually find your way through difficult situations, because this word comes up time and time again when we're busy, when we don't understand somebody else's frame of reference. So what I like to do as well is look at what the word actually means.